That'll do, Ollie. That'll do.
Hang on, tuck. Yeah, nice. Here we go. Yeah.
It's nice.
Small little, yeah. I got 5.2. That's off the paper on the podium.
Back again. Where do we all start with this? I don't know.
All right, good morning, everybody. Everybody's ready to go, I take it? Yeah. Good, thank you. We're here this morning just to lay out the roadmap that we have now for the remediation and the recovery of the Moa Point sewage treatment plant. You'll all be familiar with the failure of that plant back in February. Quite a bit of work has gone on to get the repair and work and so on underway. But people are looking for certainty about when the plant will be up and running and when its discharge from the long outfall will be safer than it is at the moment, should we put it that way. So we now have a plan which I'm confident can be relied on in terms of time frame. Charles Baker from the Wellington Water, who's the Chief Operating Officer, will talk a bit about that. He's the person in Wellington Water responsible for the remediation and recovery of the plant. This comes at a cost, so Andrea Reeves, the Chief Financial Officer for Wellington City Council, will talk about the financial aspects. So I'll ask Charles and then Andrea to speak, and then we'll open it up for questions. So, Charles.
Kia ora. Today we're releasing a recovery roadmap for Moa Point wastewater treatment plant. It provides an indicative timeline and key milestones to restore the plant back to the way it was prior to the flooding, and also address the design flaw that was identified in the hydraulic report that we released some months ago. The roadmap identifies key milestones that we'll report back on regularly so the community can hold us to account and keep track of our progress. The dates are all indicative, but we're confident in them and will regularly report on them. We know that every extra day that the plant is not fully operational impacts the community, and our teams remain very focused on restoring the services as quickly as possible, and we'll keep the community up to date. We've built this time frame to be realistic and achievable, but alongside that we will continue to do everything we can to accelerate the delivery. I would stress before we go to have a look at the roadmap that recovery is complex and it involves nearly 30 coordination of 30 projects. These are all carefully planned in sequence, and underpinning this roadmap is a very complex plan. This will allow us to restore operations as quickly as possible, but also have confidence in the roadmap that we've produced. So if we turn to the roadmap, in terms of the artefact, what we've tried to do is provide a timeline, a clear timeline. We do appreciate that different members of the community have different requirements that they want to see out of the roadmap. So we've provided them in the white boxes the technical steps. On the other side is an explanation of what those steps are to give people access to that information. But we've also, through our community meetings that we've been regularly having down at Lyell Bay with the communities, we've on the right are the green boxes, which are what we've taken away from those engagements, the key things that the community actually want to know about and understand, and how they can link that to a date. So as we move through the timeline, you can see the different parts of the projects coming. There's a couple of key projects. There's the control system, that's like the nerve centre of the plant. That's a key project. You'll see that's coming back online in September. And then the UV project, which is also there, will be coming back online. So this leads us to probably the key takeaway date is we're aiming for November to have the plant operational. Why that means the primary and the secondary treatment will be up and running, and why that is really important to the community is that when we've got those two levels of treatment, we're taking the bulk of all the fecal matter and all the horrid stuff out, making sludge again and disposing of the sludge. Why that is really important to the community is that changes what's going out the long outfall. That from November onwards, there's the biological treatment will be maturing, and the quality of the effluent will continue after that big step change of improvement to get better and better. And what we're saying there, so when you see in February, by that stage we're very confident that the plant will be back producing effluent to the right quality. So we've tried to make it accessible. We've also outlined some of the key risks that we have on the program. Everyone understands the complexity after the Iran war of shipping, but we've sought local suppliers wherever possible, or in Australia, to minimise that risk. There's also manufacturing. Some of the plants equipment does need to be manufactured. We're in a really lucky position, if luck is the right word. The two significant projects which I just touched on, the UV project and the control system project, were already underway. So we've been planning those for about a year. If they hadn't been underway, this recovery timeline would be very extended. That's just good context. Needless to say, we'll continue to work to bring it forward.
Thanks, Charles. Andrew.
So a really critical part of this recovery is giving certainty over how this work will be funded to support the timelines being achieved. We know the costs of the recovery and the work that's required will be approximately $53.5 million. That is the current estimate that we have at the moment. Obviously, for a large portion of that, because our assets are insured, we will be looking to maximise the insurance recoveries for that quantum of money. The late 2027 bypass and outfall upgrade project, that is a make good provision. So that is actually improving the plant beyond its operational state prior to the incident. So that will not be subject to insurance. And we're expecting the cost of that to be around $10.9 million over the next year or so. So Council will be looking to fund that within the provisions that we've already provided to Wellington Water, and seeking in the short term and seeking to recover all those monies as much as possible through the insurance process.
Okay. Any questions?
So everyone has to wait till for a whole year, really, for this to be fixed?
No, I think, as Charles said, I think the critical period is November. By November, the preliminary and primary treatment processes will be in place and activated, and that will significantly improve the quality of the discharge that's currently going out through the long outfall. From November, the secondary treatment, the biological treatment, starts. It takes a while for that to build its capacity, so to speak. And then from November, gradually as that biological treatment grows in capacity and capability, the quality of the discharge will also continue to improve. So by November, there will be a significant improvement in the quality of the discharge that's currently going out.
Can I just clarify, is raw sewage going to stop being pumped into the ocean in November?
Yes, as Charles said. Well, Charles, you can give your technical answer because you know better.
That's correct. The plant will return to full operation in November. That will fundamentally, at the moment, it's screened and it's going up the long outfall. Those processes will start. So we'll take out a lot of the fecal matter, a lot of the solid matter will be taken out, and then the biological process will also be starting to do its work on the discharge. So yes, in November, the discharge of raw sewage will stop.
And so the short outfall pipe at Tarakina Bay, so will beaches not be closed from November after a heavy rainfall?
No, the beaches are closed for a different reason. We live in an urban environment. There's the roads and things have runoff, which goes into the water. So it's standard prior to Moa Point. That is a normal cautionary process that LAWA puts in place to ensure that people don't swim while there's the runoff from the urban area.
So what will Moa Point have, and the works you're doing, have on the safety of swimming in our beaches?
You can see at the moment that it is safe to swim in the beaches. LAWA indicates that in 48 hours after a wet weather event, it is safe to swim on the beaches. So the Moa Point is not having a day-to-day a direct impact on the ability for anyone to swim on the beach.
But right now the system...
Is this going to be, but like the short outfall, is all of this work going to mean that that's not used in the future, or will that potentially still be?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think that's what the community wants assurance around, right? Are there going to be any more short outfall discharges? Fundamental to that is to return the plant to full operation, to full capacity, and then in late 2027, the remediation of the bypass. They are the two things that will mean that the plant the whole plant as a system can operate its maximum efficiency, which is to be able to process 4,000 litres per second. Daily, in normal dry weather, only 810. So you can see that's a big, significant buffer. That's the best assurance that we can provide that the short outfall won't be used. But there is always has to be places in an emergency for the sewage to go. If we block off those things, then in an extreme event, for whatever unforeseen, it would back up through the system and come out people's toilets. So can you ever say that the short outfall doesn't need to be used or isn't needed? It's always needed because you need safe places for in an emergency for this effluent to go.
Right now, in a heavy rain, the short outfall's being used
Correct.
because the system can't cope. So when is that going to be fixed? Because it's quite close to the shoreline.
During the most extreme weather at the moment, you're correct, the short outfall is being used. The fundamental change point will be in November. From November, the plant will be back in operation. It will be able to take day to day all of the required effluent that's heading to it and cope in the vast majority of cases with a heavy rainfall event.
But what you're saying is that it will always be kept as a backup in case.
Yes, there's historically when they built the plant 30 years ago, but prior to that, that was where all of the effluent went for 100 years out that short outfall. And that's really important, I think, too, to recognise that there is members of the community that lobbied very, very hard, and we hear them down at Lyell Bay and we listen to them about the importance of what Moa Point represented to the community and the long outfall pipe that fundamentally changed the South Coast. And we really respect that and want to get back to that. But even at that day, 30 years ago, they kept the short outfall because if the plant did fail, at the end of the day, it's got to go somewhere. And that is a very, very poor second. But hopefully we can give you confidence that the capacity of the plant is sufficient, that that would be very, very unlikely post-November.
What level of confidence do you have that you will be able to deliver on the timelines outlined here?
We've tested it very, very strongly. One of the things that does to give us confidence, we touched on that the UV project and the control system project were already underway. They are really complex pieces of work, but we know a lot about them, and so we are very confident. In many ways, actually, it's easier to do those projects when the plant is offline. That gives us again more confidence that we know the timings. November, we're confident in.
And how significant are those risks that you outlined, the shipping and the manufacturing?
That they're real, and that's the balance. Is we've put a program together that we can meet and that we can be confident in, and that if those risks occur a couple of times, then we're probably okay. But it's important to say there are some things outside our control that I think the public would understand. If there's a fundamental problem with shipping, then that does cause us issues.
How significant have the Iran war and the shipping issues been for this project?
They haven't had any impact yet.
Can you rule out rates rises for this, Mr Mayor?
Yes, what the City Council is required to fund does not require rates increases.
Another
Can you
question
give us-
just
oh,
on
sorry.
this is Te Aki Wai is due to take over ownership of water assets on the 1st of July. Will the Moa plant be part of this handover?
Yes, it still will be, yes.
And so just on an additional question to that then is what is the plan for handing over ownership of the plant? Will it be when it's operational by November or fully restored?
Do you want to pick that up?
Yeah, so the plant will be transferred on 1 July in the current state it is, with our commitment, as I've outlined, to fund the works and work in collaboration as we are with Wellington Water now, alongside Te Aki Wai, to ensure that the works planned can continue.
Does that complicate things at all, that handover?
I think we've got very good relationships with all partners, so we have been having collaborative discussions around this. So, yeah.
When you talked about being able to claim insurance, particularly for that $53.5 million, which is obviously the current estimate, how much, what sort of portion of that are you talking?
So in the 53.5 of that, we're estimating 10.9 will go towards the bypass, and that will not be recovered through insurance. We will seek to maximise the remainder of that. So I think, quick math, $42.6 million. We'll seek to maximise the recovery of that as much as we possibly can.
Oh, so the 53.5 included the 10.9?
Correct. Yes,
right.
it does.
Okay, so
yes. Yeah,
over and
it's
above.
not over and above. Yeah.
Were those estimates what you were thinking they were going to be?
Oh, look, we have had so much information, and it was really important that before we speculated on costs, noting the complexities that Charles has outlined in terms of the process they've got to go through, the 30-odd projects, it was too difficult to speculate. And so what we've been really working hard to do is to work with Wellington Water and to give some certainty around that and get those estimates together.
Mayor Andrew, are you satisfied with this timeline, given that it's not going to be fixed until November and potentially February?
Yeah, it is what the technical experts have put to us. I'm confident that it is a reliable time frame. It would be nice if it could be fixed, very quickly, but the reality is this is a complex plant. I know that for a lot of the community and the businesses on the South Coast in particular, they've been doing it tough. What they have asked for, above anything else, is certainty about the time frame, and we are now able to give them that. This is what this plan will do, but we want it to, we want the reinstatement to be as good as possible. Ultimately, when the bypass issues are addressed next year, that reduces the risk that in the event there was, the plant is overwhelmed again, that we won't see the level of failure that we've seen this time. That's a critical objective for all of this.
Just in terms of the monitoring.
That's late 2027. That's late 2027, which will reduce the risk of catastrophic failure happening again.
When the bypass is being used.
Sorry,
yeah.
That's late 2027.
Yeah, the bypass.
So if you had a rainfall
what happened
like
in
we had in
February was
February.
the bypass was being used because of work that was happening at the time. The bypass didn't meet the design specifications. We now know from the Stantec report that there was that design flaw. That has to be addressed. What we will get to in November is a plant that is operating, that is receiving sewage, that is doing the preliminary and primary treatment, and will then start to build up its secondary treatment. The level or the quality of the discharge into the Cook Strait on the long outfall will be significantly improved. The bypass issue has to be addressed. It doesn't have to be addressed in order to get the plant up and running to a point where the quality of the discharge is way better than what it is at the moment. Sorry, over here.
Yeah, I was just asking about, given that we've got 6 months of essentially the current situation, are you going to do anything to improve the monitoring of the water quality? Because it is still a health risk, and that data currently isn't on the lower website. It's not like the predictive risk isn't really there, is it? It's not like you look at it every day and you can know exactly what the risk is.
I'll have to take advice on that. I understood that the data going on the LAWA website is taken from the regular monitoring of all the sites that are named there. And as far as I'm aware, it does give an accurate risk presentation, but I'll take your point. I'll have to take advice on whether or not that is still current and appropriate.
Charles, can I ask you a question with regards to what the Mayor was just talking about? If we have another massive rain event like we had in February this year, which caused the major failure, if we have another one of those, how soon could the plant manage one of those?
So in November, we would have restored the capacity of the plant. That means, if I do a little bit of maths, that can take 3,000 litres per second. If we had a rainfall event, which gets up towards 4,000, we can still use the bypass. For 30 years, that pattern of life has been shown to be totally sustainable. So from November, the chance of using the short outfall is dramatically reduced. That reason we're targeting late 2027 is we're looking at the summer period. The summer period is when we get the least amount of rain, and that means we can take the bypass apart while knowing that the plant itself has more than enough capacity to treat the water that would come even through a normal rainfall event. So when we put those things back together, then we know that even if we were to take the plant, part of the plant down for maintenance and reduce its capacity, the outfall pipe can do what it was originally designed to do, to accommodate all that. Because there is the whole point there is that the best place for any effluent to go is down the long outfall, not through the short outfall. And so it's very reasonable that the community want assurance that we are working to minimise any chance of the use of the short outfall.
I notice you're using the term design flaw in the plant, which is perhaps stronger than what was previously described as when we had our last briefing. if the plant was built with a flaw, does that mean that the original builders or designers could be found liable for this failure?
We do have to put it into context that it was 30 years ago that it was designed. I would have to defer to
it's a legal question.
That would be a legal question. I'm not well placed to figure out that.
Is there any sort of consideration going on for legal action over the plant failure?
Priority right now is to get the plant fixed and to stop the discharge of untreated sewage, and that's got to be the priority. In terms of meeting the cost of it, a number of insurance companies are involved in that, and they'll do what insurance companies do, and then we'll get on and deal with the bypass issue. But questions of kind of liability for what happened 30 years ago, look, that's further down the track.
But
How
still,
long
could
will
there
this-
be legal action? Could this end up in the courts?
Look, that's a very technical legal question, and it's just not one that is a priority at the moment. It'll have to be further down the track. There's all sorts of issues of statute of limitations. We're way outside that. But then there's questions of knowledge and imputed knowledge. I don't want to give you a dissertation on tortious liability, but unless you want it. But I think that it's not a first order question right now. It's getting the plant recovered, repaired, functioning, and stopping the discharge of untreated sewage into Cook Strait.
It sounds like you're not ruling it out, though.
I'm not in a position to rule anything out. Right now, this is the priority. Complex legal questions can come further down the track. But I'm also not in the business of wasting more ratepayers' money on chasing expensive legal opinions on what might be a fruitless activity. So, I'll weigh those risks up in due course.
How long will this $53 million upgrade last?
Well, for the life of the plant.
How long is that?
I would stress that the plant is a very good plant. It's got a lot of capacity left in it, and we would expect it to be operating again for the next 30 years. It's a very well-constructed plant that delivers a very good level of service, and that's what we want to return it to.
Question for the Mayor. Ray Chung told me today that he's not allowed to talk to media about his resignation from the CCO review and appointments subcommittee. Have you prevented him from speaking to media about that?
No.
Why are neither parties able to talk then?
I can't explain answers that he's given you.
Doesn't the public have a right to know, though, why he resigned and what involvement you had in that process?
Well, he explained his reason to me, which is to spend more time on constituent issues. I understand you've had a chance to talk to him. It's for him to explain if he's got any other reasons.
Why can't you explain, though, the process with the police complaint?
Because I have no other explanations to give.
Was there a code of conduct complaint?
Well, no, there wasn't. And beyond what both Ray and I have said, there's nothing further to add. He has resigned from his chair role.
Were you going to sack him from that role before he resigned?
No, look, there's nothing further to add to what we've already said. He got to a point where he's decided to resign, and that's the end of the matter as far as I'm concerned.
Just a technical question. Is there a reason why the short pipe can't be upgraded to medium or long in itself? Or is,
Apart from cost?
Yeah.
Sorry, you just wanted to expand on what exactly?
Yeah, just the short pipe, can that be upgraded as into a medium or a long pipe as a secondary backup?
All things are possible. That would be, we shouldn't underestimate the cost of laying pipes into the Cook Strait. I mean, that was an incredible thing that they did 30 years ago, and that's the outfall is an incredible asset. The long outfall is an incredible asset to the Wellington community. But all things are possible, but that wouldn't really be, off the top of my head, wouldn't really be a wise investment, given that the long outfall has proven its capacity and it continues to provide a good service.
Do you think this failure could happen again?
No. When we have completed the work by February, the chance of the plant flooding in the way that it did will be eliminated.
How does this roadmap fit in with the sludge treatment plant and getting that up and running?
Yep. Both of those two plants long term will be operated at Te Akiwai, and they've got to work together. They essentially become one plant. We have got a great relationship, the Moa Point recovery team with the SMF team. They have a lot of expertise because they're getting ready to commission part of a plant. So we're working hand in glove with them to make sure that expertise is available to us. We're quite lucky in that regard. Some of their people actually were there when they commissioned the SMF. So what I would give you assurance to is that we are totally connected with them, working to make sure the programs are optimised, and we understand one of the key things that Moa Point has to deliver in as quickly as possible is sludge in the right quality and the right quantity for the SMF to commission.
But does this roadmap line up with the sludge minimisation facility being able to go online at the right time?
So at this stage, we are anticipating some delay in terms of the output from Moa Point to help the commissioning process for the sludge minimisation facility. We do believe at this point in time, though, that can be done still within, well extended timeframes within the budgets that we're working towards.
Did anything come out of the other damage report, that has been released today? Anything major that you see as important to?
No, I think that...
What caused this?
No, the damage report focuses more on what equipment was impacted. It does give a really good insight into the scale of the damage, and it also hopefully gives a bit of an insight into the challenge that we were faced and the recovery path, and gives some context into that November date, the scale of what had to be taken out and remediated and repaired, and hopefully gives that kind of context to give confidence to the community that November is a date which is reasonable.
How would you describe that scale and the damage that you saw in that report?
There's no getting around that the plant filled with effluent to some places 3 metres deep. I mean, you can imagine what that's like and what that does to stuff. So I think we're on the record that of the severity of the damage and the consequence to the plant, and we're working hard to do it. Again, I would just stress it's very fortuitous that we had those two large upscale projects. The equipment that primarily was damaged was the two projects we're working to replace anyway. That's the UV equipment and the control system of the plant. The entire control system of the plant, which is like its brain and nervous system, were taken out by the flooding. If we didn't have that other project underway, it could be years to get to a point that we could do it. So November is a challenging date for us, but a date that we're confident we can meet.
Because I believe they said it was 80. You said it was 80% of electrics that were damaged in the original.
Yes, the way the plant's designed, I'm on the record as explaining it before. It's a very unique plant. It's on a very unique site. The fact that it's stacked three levels high and into the ground. Normally, if you had more space, you disperse your plant into multiple buildings. The way it is that a lot of the electronics and things are around in the lower parts where they need to be, and they were impacted by the flooding.
All right, no more questions? Thank you, everybody.
Sorry, I just have a couple of technical questions. I just want to make sure I understand. The 5,000 alpha, is that